In this week's episode, you could win yourself a 2-player starter set for Conquest. Just make sure to like, comment and subscribe and you could win. Good morning everybody and welcome to the Weekender. It has been another fabulous week in gaming and we are here to join you to catch up on the latest and greatest from what's been going on. First up, we have some updates. So this Sunday, instead of our regular programming, the XLBS, which you've all come to know and love and enjoy, we're doing something a little bit special. So you remember a few months back, if you're a backstage member, where we talked about doing a food eating challenge? The time has come. The sword of Damocles is about to fall. So we're pairing off. Myself and Warren will do a set in this video, and Jerry, you and Lloyd are going to do a set in it as well. And it's all stuff that you guys have lovingly wrapped up and sent from your native lands for us to try. I'm nervous. I'm expecting it to be horrible. And Lance has dubbed the name Ready, Steady, Puke. So
cool.
Basically, come and join us on OnTableTop.com this weekend to see which of the four of us puke first. So
I see Lance has got salad for you as well.
Already. Oh God. Well, I did agree to this, so I will go through with it. I'm a man of my word. Other than that, this Saturday, today, I'm actually not here in Ireland. I'm actually over in Nottingham covering the Battlefront Open Day. So if you remember last year, myself, John, and Colin went across to cover it. We had a lot of fun with the guys at Battlefront Miniatures. So they lay out tons of games for folks to play. They have a store. It's actually held in a Mason's Hall, which is really cool because it's got its own bar. Last year they were doing tournaments and stuff, so definitely something. If you're in the Nottingham area, just go in and check it out for the day. You can find it online. I believe we have a link, Jerry?
We do have a link, indeed.
Yes, so I think this just has some images of what they had last year. So they had some store set up, lots of gaming tables, so you can see Star Trek Ascendancy there. They had tanks on the go. They had Vault of Dragons on the go, which wasn't even released then. So I am curious to see what they're going to show off this year. Also, if you're going along, I believe you do get a goodie bag, which is quite nice.
The cool thing for me is I'm really looking forward to seeing all the stuff they're doing in terms of the D&D license, because obviously we talked a little bit about Vault of Dragons, which is their awesome new board game, which I believe is going to get an expansion as well, which sounds pretty cool. But they've been doing a whole bunch of stuff in terms of their miniatures to support the D&D line, and I kind of want to see if I can get my hands on an Archon the Cruel. I love that guy. I love Joe Manganiello, so I really want to get that Dragonborn for myself.
There's painting competitions as well at the day for Flames of War and Dungeons and Dragons both. So
yeah. They also have some participation games on the go as well. I know some of the local groups actually turn up there as well. But this year, it's myself and Ben that are going to cover it. For people to chat to, if you watch the Battlefront Bootcamp for Flames of War, we did a little while back. So Chris is going to be there. An old buddy of ours is going to be there, Dr. Dave. So I'll have to see if I can run him down and get him on camera again. Freddie will be there, and just the usual suspects from the team. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's nice to get to Nottingham. Cool. Next up, Spring Cleaning Challenge winners have been announced this week. So how many did we choose, Ben?
So we picked 4 winners for this. There was a prize given out for Best Skill, Best Tutorial, and Best Idea. We did a live stream that we showed up on Wednesday, and there's a VOD for you to go and check back as well. The winners are also in the prize claim section at the same time as well. Each of the 4 winners won themselves a £50 voucher. The 4th winner this time wasn't a junior beast, but it was a staff pick, because we didn't get any junior entries this time around, but we decided to give some props to one of the other members who did really, really well in the competition, and we thought was a very inspiring project. So yeah, go and check that out.
I absolutely adore that orc one. That turned out so good.
Yeah, the Stomper was absolutely fantastic. It's definitely worth going through and checking out each of the winners, as well as actually diving back into the projects themselves and looking at all the other projects that have been set up. And don't let the fact that the competition is over stop you from doing some summer cleaning, for example. Get stuck in, break out all your old models that you think maybe have been lost and forgotten at the back of a cupboard somewhere, and start painting them up with new schemes and that kind of thing to use in your games. So good stuff.
Yeah, I think the actual Spring Cleaning Challenge is probably going to become a yearly thing, just because it was a really nice one. Because through the year you pick up so much stuff. And
on occasion, on occasion, I may pick up a bit. It'd be nice to see an awful lot of people started projects and then petered out,
Did they?
Yeah, so it'd be nice to see people getting in there.
But could they spring clean their previous year's spring cleaning challenge then?
No, I'm not even worried about next year. I just want to see them finish off the stuff they started, even if it's a month down the line or 2 months down the line, because there was some really beautiful stuff. There were people doing dusting off old Averland stuff and adding in Dwarf Legionnaires, which I think may have been the old Harlequin ones.
Nice.
Some others were doing saga bits and pieces. A lot of people were rebasing squares on the rounds, which is terrible. You can't have everything. But yeah, there were some great little starting ones where people got out a load of stuff and then, well, this is what I'm going to do. But then after the sort of the initial week or so, we never seen an update again. So it'd be nice to just see those finished.
Aye. Well, I mean, like, it's one of those things whenever you're starting into a project like that, you kind of have to manage your expectations and not just go, I'm going to take this 5,000 point army that you used to have and redo it all. It's a bit much.
Yeah.
Pick something achievable, I would say, if you're going for it. Right. That, I believe, is all of our updates. Ben, what's going on in the world of the news?
Cool. So this week saw Mantic Games taken to their blog to do a whole series of both written posts and videos with Ronnie talking about their new sort of expansion version of the game for Walking Dead. This is called Call to Arms, which is their sort of new take on it, which sort of levels things up, I guess you'd say. So with Walking Dead All Out War, the sort of basic premise of it was that you take your gang of survivors, you go up against other gang of survivors, and you'd either play through narrative scenarios and stuff on the tabletop against other people, or you'd be doing stuff set up, on with your own ideas, and you'd also have the walkers and stuff thrown into the mix. So each side was probably made up of around sort of between 5 and 10 miniatures a side kind of thing. This takes things to the next level and sort of makes it a bigger skirmish game where you've got larger factions going up against other factions, turning into a proper little bit of a war game here. There's also still the walkers in the mix, but it means that you're going to have a lot of sort of alliances between people on the sort of good side and the bad side, if there are such things in the Walking Dead universe, sort of getting stuck into it. So yeah, they did a whole series of videos this week. So we're talking about the game and diving into a little bit more detail about it. They actually had an interview with Mark Latham, who wrote the rules for the game as well, which is pretty cool. And I believe there's a whole stuff you can get stuck into as well. So you can kind of give it a little bit of a preview and see what you think about it before diving in. I'm not so sure about this. I think one of the joys of Walking Dead was the fact that you could play as that smaller group of survivors, dealing with very tense situations. It'd be very interesting to see how people pick up on the sort of like larger scale fighting that you see in Call to Arms. But yeah, if you're interested, go check it out on their blog.
You see, for me, this kind of fits thematically, because as the story progresses in The Walking Dead, you do see the survivor groups, they get bigger, they bring more people in, and then you have like the battles between the Saviors and Rick's gang, and it just makes sense that you would scale up like this thematically.
I like it. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, you like your Walking Dead, don't you?
I love The Walking Dead. I've got the first 5 seasons of it, as in the game.
And the releases.
Very cool. Yeah.
And the way they've set this up is the basic core mechanics are the same for the Here's Negan board game, the All Out War standard game, and then a Call to Arms. So if you know the one system, it's very easy to move from one to the other and back again. And if you have a load of stuff like I do, they're selling the faction decks, so they're selling a lawful and I'm assuming evil deck. Because they're actually split into 3 different types. You've got lawful, neutral, and then bad. So the saviors would be very bad, and bad people can have neutral, but they can't have lawful. Lawful can have neutral, but they can't have bad, and neutral can have either or. You can't mix. You can't have a neutral character in
never the twain shall meet.
Yeah, so you can decide which way to go with them. So if you've already got a load of the stuff from it, you can jump in here, and the beta rules have been kicking around now for a while because they were looking for feedback on them. So I quite like what they've done with it. There's a lot of customization, and in a lot of cases, the games I played outside of the narrative scenarios went like this anyway, where it was like, here's the gang I will build against my friends, and just seeing how they actually ended up. So it's more or less just, like you say, it is the next sort of logical step after you hit those sort of narrative junctions where you do hit the big clashes between the kingdom and Rick's gang and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, see, I always loved the game because of that customizability, and you could just have some really funny moments because you could do Negan and the apprentice, which is Sophia with a baseball bat.
Generally bring as many kids as I possibly can with Negan, because you just brain one of them for the other ones to get extra actions. Make sure I don't do it to you. So that was always good. But even things like the way they've changed walkers in this. So walkers still work like walkers, but if in the walker phase, if enough walkers are close enough together, they get a big mob base that has multiple attacks and multiple wounds, essentially, and they move as a clump. It's called the herd. So you can actually stymie your opponent by moving ones together to actually force a herd to spawn, and then
start shifting it towards them.
I think the other thing they've also done is they've changed the sound mechanics. They've got rid of the threat tracker and sound, which works for the narrative game, but in a cross-table fight, you're not really worried about making sound. The walkers have been there for some time. Everybody really knows how to deal with walkers. It's not as big a problem these days. So it's a case of just go nuts. They're going to move, but hey-ho, who cares?
Now, I do have to wonder, because it's more of a stand-up fight game, whenever you're killing your opponent's miniatures, do you actually have to check as you kill them, are they going to turn into a walker, are they going to come back?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the same as standard game. If it's not a headshot, then they're going to get back up again. So always aim for the head. We learned that from Starship Troopers. Aim for the spine, put them down for good.
Well, no, you see, because if it's someone in the middle of your opponent's forces, you take them out, and suddenly you're making walkers rise up amongst your opponent's forces. That's really going to throw your tactics a bit. Yeah,
but it's one of those things. It's random. You don't know if you're going to get a headshot whenever you roll, so you can't predict it. You can't play for it.
But it reminds me of when I was watching the TV show. I know this is based on the comics, but there was a fight I saw where Rick's group was just fighting the Saviors, and they weren't aiming to headshot folks. They were just aiming to knock them down and just wait for them to come back, and then have walkers in and amongst the Saviors that they were trying to kill, which was very, very cool.
Doable.
Yep. Next up, we've got some Flames of War news, Ben.
Yeah, so obviously all the new sort of starter sets and stuff came out towards the start of this month, and of course we had the boot camp as well, where a lot of people get stuck into their armies for both the Americans, Germans, British, and the Soviets and all that kind of thing. But a new source book is available sort of now and throughout July, alongside a whole bunch of other releases for people who want to take their American forces that next step forward. So the new source book is focused towards the idea of the Americans, and it's kind of helping you build themed forces and battalions and that kind of thing after that initial invasion of D-Day and beyond into Normandy. So it's all the different forces that have all been fighting through France and stuff, making their way towards Paris and things, which is pretty cool. And of course, alongside that, you're going to get a whole bunch of new collected sets of miniatures that will help you build up these forces. So we're seeing a lot of really cool infantry. We're seeing a lot of vehicles thrown into the mix as well. Some big, chunky units of Shermans, for example, as well. You've also got some air support as well, which is pretty cool. I believe, I can't remember exactly what they're called. They are the Thunderbolt flight. So if you're looking for some bombers to fly in and take out some tanks, you've got some really cool options there as well. This is just a smattering of exactly what's available right now. There's a whole bunch of other stuff coming out throughout July and August too. So if you like your Americans and you want to put together a big force that's pushing further into Normandy, you've got some really good options here as well, which is really good. And importantly for me, it's good to see more infantry, because one of the things I've always wondered about with Flames of War is exactly how good infantry forces would be, because a lot of people play big, heavily armored forces, so it's nice to see more soldiers in. Yeah, well, that's good to hear.
Well, if you run the Russian infantry horde.
It doesn't even have to be Russian, just any infantry in Flames of War is incredibly difficult to get shot of.
Yeah,
because they're like ticks on a dog's back, especially if once
they're cover and they're dug in.
Yeah, they don't even need to be dug in. Just they're like Space Marines. They're 3-up save, so to get shot of them takes an awful lot. Even just suppressing them takes a lot.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, like when the boot camp was on, I actually did get a game on with the Russians, and I had an opponent who was actually charging the front of my tanks with infantry.
That's a bit suicidal.
Well, the first time he failed, lost some bases. Second time he actually did make it in, and when he made it in, he actually knocked out 2 KVs on me.
Yeah. That's why you should always have combined arms. Always never go into a town with tanks unless you've got infantry to support, because you run the problems. It's nice to see the flights back.
Yeah.
Because in 3rd edition, they changed how aircraft work. Now I haven't bothered to look how aircraft work in 4th. But 1st and 2nd, you had flights. You would roll to see how many planes actually turned up in a flight. In In third, you only got one plane in it. Different.
Yes.
You roll for the effect.
Aye, so they basically did it more abstract for the mechanics.
So it'll be interesting to see, because I would always take anti-aircraft anyway, regardless of whether or not I know what's in my opponent's list. Because if they've got planes, you definitely want to have ACAC there. And if they don't have planes, then you can just lower it and turn it on infantry.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of big, high caliber guns going into it.
Still a big gun. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
I'm guessing the Germans can do the same with the 88.
Could do it with it's a bit of a waste with the 88, but I tend to use Oswinds and Verbalwinds 3.7s, things that have bucket loads of dice. You know, if you're firing 5 or 6 dice per vehicle and you've got 3 or 4 of those, they'll muller any sort of infantry in it as soon as you see them. But for any of the American players, obviously Fortress Europe is the current book, but that's all 4 late war lists. So the Soviets, I say all 4. It's not taken into account the Pacific, but for the European, it's the Soviets, the Americans, British, and Germans.
Yep.
But they're very basic lists. They let you do some things, but not everything. The D-Day book is the first of the sort of country-specific books, and it has an awful lot more. So if you want to run your para lists, if you want gliders, if you want heavy artillery companies, all of these things, if you want to do Detroit's Finest or the Big Red One, that's the book to go and grab, because it just lets you expand and really dive into detail, especially if you want to theme a list around a specific force within the...
Yeah, well, you see, I'm looking forward to the Russian one coming out, because that's the faction that has caught my attention. Ben, if you were dipping in, which faction would you be jumping in with?
I think I'd have to go with the British. I think the British should be pretty awesome. I'd love to get stuck into that. You know, last time I played anything to do with World War II, I was playing Bolt Action and I played Germans, and it was cool. But I think I'd want to play as the British this time around, take on the Allies. I think they'd be really good.
All right, well, next up, D&D Essentials kit is going to be available soon. So what's this, Ben?
Yeah, so Wizards of the Coast put out some sort of previews a couple of months ago for their new starter set, effectively, for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But this one's a little bit different. So the D&D Essentials kit is a sort of upgraded version of a starter set that is going to be available in Target in the US right now, if you want to go and get it right now, and it should be available everywhere else in the world in September. So there's a little bit of exclusivity for the Americans at the moment. But this new starter set takes a little bit of a different approach to the last one that was available for 5th edition, in that it doesn't necessarily have pre-generated characters in it. It has rules and everything for you to get started and make your own characters, which I thought was an interesting twist. It's also set in the same town, almost frontier town, as the last starter set. So if anyone's played that, it's set in the world of in the town of Phandelver, which is in the Forgotten Realms, and this sort of carries on a story as well. So if you've got the starter set and you've got this one, you could merge them together to create a larger adventure, which I thought was really, really cool. The idea that they talked about in the interview, that's actually part of that news story, which I'll make sure to link in the show notes, is all the idea of, like, it's a bit like the Wild West of the Forgotten Realms. So there's lots of mercenaries out there, there's lots of crazy people that are trying to look for gold and stuff down in weird lost mines and temples and that kind of thing. So it's got a really sort of broad base for you to go adventuring in. The essential set also comes with a whole bunch of extra stuff that the starter set didn't come with. So you've got maps of not only just the local area of Phandelver, but also the larger world as well. You've got cards for all the monsters and the magic items that you're going to be fighting and finding, which is pretty cool too. And they've also included rules for lower player count games. So one of the big things that they wanted to really deal with is the idea of a DM and one player. Maybe it's a parent and a kid, for example, or just 2 friends, or, you know, partners that want to get stuck into a game together. They've now got rules in there for 1 versus 1 games, because they've added in this thing called companions, and companions act a little bit like an NPC, but with a little bit more flavor and a little bit more sort of like flesh on the bones. They did some sort of beta testing with the idea earlier in the year, but now the rules are like properly included in this set, and they will also be available as a PDF later on as well, which I thought was really cool. But it just means that if you haven't got a lot of people around that want to play D&D and just 2 people want to get stuck into it, you've got some really cool stuff there. That, for example, if your player's playing a wizard, then maybe their companion is a fighter that's going to sort of help them in their quest and stuff like that. So it's just a little bit of extra sort of role-playing advice and stuff, which is pretty cool. It seems like a really good set for getting stuck into. I hoard starter sets for role-playing games, so I'm probably going to end up picking up this one. I've already been thinking about getting the Stranger Things one, and I really want to get the Rick and Morty one as well, which is really cool. But yeah, this one looks really good. And importantly, as they have said, spoilers, I guess, but there are dungeons and there are dragons in this. So it's a starter set that fills all of the quotas that you need for the game.
I approve.
Yeah.
It's also very handy having that 1v1 if somebody's completely new
Exactly.
and they've never played before, because it allows you to play test it with one person rather than trying to sit there with a crowd of cats around the table all wanting to talk at once and do it while you're constantly flicking through a book, and then somebody's talking about what they've seen on TV and somebody else is talking about the football and nobody's paying attention, and it can be very disheartening. It gives you a chance to learn how to play. I like the companion bit because if anybody's played any computer RPGs like Baldur's Gate or Star Wars Knights of the Republic,
games,
that possibly those as well. I've never played those, but you know the RPGs that are based on the Wizard system. So Knights of the Republic was based on the D20 system. Baldur's Gate and everywhere. You played essentially a single player, but you had companions that you could swap in and swap out, and you could tool them up to a certain extent and work out their progression as well. So I'm imagining it's more or less that brought onto the tabletop, where you've gone, well, this is what I need, so here's how I'm going to tweak them when they level up.
Yeah, see, I have to wonder, could you use that companion system for if someone doesn't turn up to a session? You know the way that happens sometimes, someone can't make it for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden they're falling behind in the XP and stuff. If you were able to actually tune that companion mechanic so that the person could actually run kind of on autopilot when they're not there and maybe still be earning XP.
It shouldn't be a problem, I wouldn't think.
Well, one of the cool things about this is that the companions, as you were saying there, they do level up and they get more experience. So you're invested in them as characters. They're not just kind of like a throwaway cookie cutter character or that kind of thing, which is really cool. Although Chris Perkins did joke in the video that if your companion dies, you can just go back and get another one, which I thought was pretty fun. It seems like a really cool idea. I think it's something that would be really fascinating to see done in a couple of different ways. You could either have it that the DM role plays as the companion, or the player just sort of like says what they want them to do, and they're more like a silent guardian kind of thing. I thought it was really good. Or if you've got maybe two people, maybe the more experienced player plays as the companion, which is like that slimmed down rule set, and then the new player plays as their character. So you've got someone sort of guiding them on their quest as well, which I thought would be really good. It's also good if you want to try and do like a lot of one shots, because if you want to try and make characters that have got a very cut down rule system, you could just effectively play as these companions, to be honest, and you still get a pretty good sort of game out of it as well, which I thought would be really cool. So yeah.
See, I would definitely throw a companion into any group you were running, just because if you want to bring someone in late, you can just say, okay, well, we've already got someone that's running, they're up to date with everybody, and here you go, you can run with that now. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a great way. It's a great thing to see Wizards of the Coast coming up with lots and lots of new ideas for getting players into the game. Because obviously we've got a lot of these starter sets that are themed towards a lot of TV shows and that kind of thing, which are like a great sort of like hook for people. But for people that are just excited by the idea of fantasy adventures, maybe they've read a lot of books and that kind of thing, just having things like this essential set is a really good way to get people stuck into the game, rather than just saying you've got to buy all these 3 core books and then play the game. A lot of the rules are free as well online. A lot of the core rules are. So
there's a 180-page download on the Wizards site, which I think it only contains probably a dozen or so monsters, so it's not the full remit of monsters, but the full rules are in there. So that could be, you go from this to that to expand, and then after that you can pick up the books. Or it means if you're playing with a group, having the DM's guide and the monster manual, great, but telling your players that they should each really have a copy of the player's guide. Sometimes people aren't going to be able to spend the money on that, but they can go and download that 180-page thing for free and go, well, at least I know the rules. I know what I should be looking at. I know where I should be min-maxing, that type of thing. So
yeah. Also, if you're bringing someone new in, even running a single intro session, 1v1 could be good before you actually drop them in with the main group. Because if you're trying to learn and you're in a group that's been role-playing for years, again, people are saying what they're doing, talking to characters, and you have no real idea what's going on.
There's been a thing that we've done in previous D&D games we've played, is that before everyone dived into the session together as a group, what I did is I sat down with players, or the other DM sat down with me and our group, and we played through what was called our prelude. So we played through just our first level as those level 1 characters, with, for example, a companion or an NPC or someone who was tied into our backstory, this would be a great way of doing that with like proper solid rules for the game rather than just an NPC character. And then from there, you went through level 2 as a group, and sort of 3, 4, etc., etc. So yeah, these are just really cool ideas for getting people started in the game and stuff, and telling a little bit more of a narrative thing and stuff. So yeah, cool. Yeah.
More for that.
All right, last bit of news for the day, Ben. What do you got?
Yeah, so the last bit of news is the winner of the Kinderspiel des Jahres was announced. So this is the like best kids game that's available on the market right now, and it went to, no surprise, Harbour, who do some amazing games for kids. And this one is called Valley of the Vikings. It does also have a German name that I'm not going to try and pronounce, although it is in the thing. Wikinger? I can't say it, damn it. But it's called Valley of the Vikings. And this is a dexterity-based game where you're playing as a bunch of kid Vikings who are trying to roll barrels around to knock other ones and score points, while also sort of making your way across the docks on this rickety bridge, just so you go, hoping you don't get knocked off and all that kind of thing. So it seems like a really good game that mixes together those kind of kiddie fun elements that everybody enjoys. I mean, I still enjoy a dexterity game now and again, but also sort of a little bit more of like that sort of like tactical thinking as well that really sort of helps. And of course, no surprise, it won the Kinderspiel des Jahres. So if you're looking for a very good entry-level game for younger gamers, this is one you want to go and check out, Valley of the Vikings, which is available right now, I believe. So yeah.
Ryan played this at the Games Expo. And I watched the video, and it was an awful lot of fun, because essentially you have these barrels in the middle that are color-coded. There are always 4 out there, whether or not you're playing with a full 4 people. And then you knock this big boulder in from one of the 4 corners, and the idea is to knock over specific barrels. But you're setting them up each time yourself. So you have to sit there and go, right, if I want to knock such and such into the water, so I need their barrel out there, but I don't want my barrel to be hit. So you're having to stack the barrels up in a way that is advantageous to you. And if people get knocked in the water, you steal the gold from their ship. And then the pier along the top has a different set of sort of things on it. So if you stop at one of the sections, you might get 4 gold or 3 gold, or flip with somebody else or move somebody else one spot. So you want to be at the back of the bridge pushing other people into the water while stealing their gold. So for a kids game, it's tremendous fun. For an adults game, you just need to line up the shots for that, I think, every time somebody goes in the water.
No.
But because the way that the mechanics go and the gold's always going in, you play until the gold pile goes down. So you're never eliminating a kid early on. They're there from the start to the finish of the game. So
which is key.
There's always a chance to keep playing.
So the little video with Ryan and the creator, we'll stick the link somewhere down below. If people are interested, they can go and have a nosy.
Yeah.
I would. Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I would suggest that you go and check out more from Harbour as well. Like, they always have an amazing selection of games for younger gamers. There's like Animal Upon Animal is their like one of the most famous ones, where you're stacking up a huge set of creatures on top of each other, and you're trying to make sure that they don't fall over and stuff. It's really good. And there's also Super Rhino, or Rhino Hero, depending on where you're from, which is a really fun game where you're building up this tower of paper, card buildings, and you're trying to move the superheroes up at the same time.
Yeah, I played that last year.
It gets absolutely massive, and then it gets knocked over, and no one can reach it, and that kind of thing. It's really good fun. So
yeah, it's something Habba are really good at. Is they're very good at explaining simple mechanics, and they keep their games really clean so that you're not overloading a kid. Because the last thing you want to do is give a kid a rule set with maybe 10, 15 mechanics in it that the kid's just going to forget. Where you can do it with like maybe 4 or 5 mechanics that's very simple for them to remember.
Yeah, I actually, I think it was 2 years ago now, or maybe it was last year, a friend of mine was running a board game event at a local church hall, and so I went along as a volunteer to try and help out and sort of, teach some games to some kids and that kind of thing. And I was just sat with this family for maybe 3 hours, and I was like, what do you want to play? And they were like, I want to play that game. And every single one of them was a Harbour game, and I was having more fun than the kids were. It was great.
Fair enough.
But I was just like, man, this is amazing. But they absolutely enjoyed it. So yeah, good stuff.
But that's the key. It's games that kids and parents can just have fun with, and if the parents want to just play it on their own, they can still have fun with it.
Oh yeah.
Right. I think that's all the news. Yeah, Ben?
It is all the news.
All right, so next up we have Colin from Battle Systems on Skype. So we're going to pop Ben off the screen. Myself and Jerry are going to run away here, and we're going to bring Sam into the studio because they're going to be sitting down to talk about the new fantasy terrain. So we'll be right back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sam from OnTableTop, and we're joined by Colin from Battle Systems. How you doing, mate?
Hey everyone. Hi Sam.
It's good to see you again, mate. Now, you're here to talk about something new happening with the battle scenes, battle systems,
Well, they are scenes.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that you've got tabletop game scenery over your shoulder there. I was,
It's like the old logo, that one, yes.
Yeah, so something new happening with the Battle Systems tabletop war game scenery.
Yes.
And that is something I'm very excited to see, fantasy terrain.
Yes.
Now, of course, Battle Systems terrain has been around for a while. For those who haven't come across it before, can you tell us a bit about it? What exactly is Battle Systems terrain?
Okay, so wow, for the last 7 or 8 years, whatever it is, we've been making terrain for war games and skirmish games that's ready to kind of play straight from the box. So you can literally just open the box, pop your bits out, slot it together. There's no painting required. And when you're done, you flat pack it away and you can chuck it on your shelf in a box, or you can take it around your gaming club. It's that kind of thing. So it's very durable. It's quick and easy to set up. And, you know, we're trying to kind of create all the different environments. We've had the dungeons, and we've had urban apocalypse, and we're having lots of sci-fi ranges as well. So for us, it's all about creating that sort of vibrant terrain for use in your games, but just as importantly, to be able to actually go inside as well. That's what we're all about. So often with tabletop games, you'll get like a building, and it's great, it looks great, and you walk around it and do stuff like that. But with us, it's like, well, I want to go inside. You know, I want my guys to be able to go inside and, you know, continue the battle down a corridor or run up the stairs and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of cover all of that aspect of it as well.
One of the great things about it, Battle Systems terrain, of course, is that it is so modular. You can clip it all together in any way. When you were first designing it, why did you decide to go down the card route rather than, say, plastic or resins?
Well, when we started all that time ago, it was just like a couple of guys, you know, couple of chimps working out a basement. Do you know what I mean? So we kind of we needed to keep the costs pretty low. So we actually started with print and play, actually, which was really successful. In fact, Beasts of War helped sort of like get us known at that early stage, with your backstage passes and stuff. We did some cool stuff with that.
I remember, yeah.
And then I moved on to something more physical that's, like I say, ready to go straight from the box. Plastic is very expensive back then for tooling and stuff, so we went with that. After a while of using and going down the card route, I realised that actually, in many respects, card can be superior in its portability, its its ability to be pre-painted, its ability for you to kind of drop it down the stairs, and then when you get to the bottom, just sort of like pick it up again, and it's completely fine. It's that kind of stuff. So and after a bit of time, it was very clear that I never really wanted to I always thought we'd upgrade to plastic at some point, but actually now I feel like going to plastic would be a downgrade, because cardboard for me is, especially the high density cardboard that we use, it's just so versatile for everything. And when done right, and you put it on your battlefield and it's all done, it just looks fantastic anyway. I mean, you know, there's really not much difference.
Yeah, that's very true. We have used the Battle Systems terrain, of course, in the studio here to create some pretty effective looking tables. Now, this isn't the system's first foray into fantasy. You've had the dungeon terrain, but what will this new fantasy range be bringing? What sort of terrain can we expect to see from it?
Okay, so originally the dungeon was literally that. It was a dungeon, and we really pushed that out and filled it all up with lots of lovely furniture and bits and pieces like that. But it was kind of that one location. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're taking the rest of the fantasy world, if you like. So we've got your townhouses and your village and all that kind of stuff, and your ruins and your big open battlefields and your watchtowers and all that kind of crazy stuff. So we're back out on the tabletop, where you've got like grass and bits and pieces like that, and you're going to be able to kind of get all those locations. You're not just stuck in a little dungeon somewhere. You are going to actually be out there fighting in pretty much any sort of environment you want, really.
Excellent. Will it be compatible with the previous dungeon set that people might have?
Yeah, in many respects, yes. I mean, the original dungeon had a kind of because it was a dungeon, it had these sort of like ramps that went onto the walls. We've moved away over the last 3 or 4 years. We've moved away from that particular system. However, it's still compatible because if you've got our dungeon terrain, you can set up this lovely dungeon over here, and you can surround it by our original fortress thing. But that will be on a tabletop, and then you'll come out of that, and you can go through, and you're like, well, I'm coming out of the dungeon, and I'm going to go and attack the village, and then I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to have this fight in this old ruined monastery or whatever like that. So, in that respect, like lots of terrain, really, it's completely compatible as far as kind of moving things around and setting them up on the table. Also, a lot of the things that were inside the dungeon as well, things like bookcases and bits and pieces like that. We had these really great little bookcases with all little books that come off, and of course, it's all pre-painted, so there's nothing to do, you just slot it together. And what you can do with that is obviously you can just take that, turn it upside down, stick it in one of our houses, because you can go inside our houses, and you've instantly got a bookcase inside a house, that kind of thing. So in many respects, treasure chests and barrels and bits and pieces like that will be compatible. There's like a little well and a little iron forge thing. You can just take those and stick them straight on in the village if you want to. So in that respect, it's very compatible.
Fantastic. You mentioned there like things like a ruined monastery and things like that. Were there any sort of iconic fantasy structures that you just thought, oh, I've got to get this on the tabletop?
Yeah, I've had these designs for when we did the dungeon. I was like, oh wow, I'd love to do a village. Do you know what I mean? And I'd love to do like the big open battlefield. And I put some designs together, and then we went down the sci-fi route for quite a long time, and we've got a course-based game, and that was 18 months of work. But it's kind of like I've just been dying to get this stuff on the table. So I mean, I keep looking over here because I've just got a load of stuff over here on the table, and I can see over here I've got a nice big tavern, which is really nice. You can lift the roof off, go in the top level, lift it off, go in the under levels.
Oh, you've got to have a tavern.
You've got to have a tavern, yeah. I've got the classic sort of townhouse. I've got like a stores house. There's like a little lakeside housey thing, a little smithies thing that we've got going over there. Guard huts. I've got a ruined monastery as well. I've got lots of really cool things, all the things that bring it to life, which is what Battle Systems is all about, which is like all the fences and the little bridges and the wells and the little chests and various other things. I've got a lovely great big watchtower, which I'm looking at now. Palisade walls, stone walls. Just looking over here, some other stuff that I can't talk about yet. So,
you can't leave us hanging there now.
Some things. There's some things. There's some things that are coming. So that I'm literally working on the tools now. I've got a load of tool sheets laid out that I can see here, which I'm kind of arranging stuff to make sure it all fits on the sheets. So all the iconic things that you'd expect to see in a village or whatever.
This is so tantalizing. If only we could just get your camera to pan slightly to the right there. We could get to see all these fantasy terrains here.
I could probably move it a little bit, but I'm worried I might knock my microphone over.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, of course, you said how before you want this to be compatible with a lot of different game systems. How did you keep that in mind? What sort of games do you think people will play on this terrain, and how did you make sure it was suitable for any that people might like to play?
Well, the beauty of most games are that in many respects they're kind of all compatible with themselves, if you know what I mean. So they're all following the same kind of. I don't want to use the word generic because that sounds really boring, doesn't it? But they follow those same rules. Generally they're all around about 28 to 35, I guess, millimeter in size, etc. So scale-wise, it's going to be compatible immediately. And then you've got really there's different types of games. So, for example, you've got Kings of War. You've got Kings of War, great big war game, but also a skirmish game with Vanguard. We've kind of made things compatible so that you're able to play that as a war game. So you could take our basic pledge and kind of spread that out and make a war game table. There's enough room for you to move your troops on the trays and everything through all the spaces. and you'll have a beautiful table full of amazing terrain that you can kind of store away really effectively. But if you want to go skirmish, Vanguard, for example, you'd be able to then, compact that all down and make your tight little sort of like cobbled street villages, and sort of have like battles through that as well. And that goes not just for that. You've got things like Song of Fire, of Ice and Fire as well. We've made sure that we've got walls at particular lengths so that it kind of follows straight in with that game. You can say, well, I need to put these 6 terrain pieces down, and the lengths are correct, etc. D&D, of course, I shouldn't ever forget that. The gazillion, whatever Googleplex of different ways to play. Frostgrave, Mordheim, crikey, Rangers of Shadow Deep, Age of Sigmar, just whatever fantasy game within reason you're playing, I guess, unless the miniatures are like this big or something. It's kind of ready, because, like I say, you can have this as a war game if you want, and you can set it all up in your buildings, but you can also bring it down and make it skirmish game. And of course, because our buildings, you can go inside all of our buildings, you've immediately got, like, on a 3x3, you've got the battlefield with the buildings on it, but you get all that extra gaming space because you can run up, open a door, run inside, and just continue the battle inside.
Excellent. Yeah, having that ability to flow from interior to exterior gameplay scenarios, I think that really adds to the cinematic feel of the game.
It does, yeah, and maybe I should have said earlier on, but one of the things about battle systems when I was gaming myself was when I was I'm 45, so when I was like 13 when I started, the biggest problem for me was that I couldn't get inside anything, so I had to kind of make that myself. And it was really, really frustrating because you'd spend hours and hours making terrain things, and then you'd play like a couple of games or whatever like that because you kind of burnt yourself out making and just creating, which is a great platform for where I am now. But for me, I never wanted to break the immersion. I didn't like the idea of saying, right, I'm going inside this building and then having to go over to another place over here and say, right, here we are on some tiles inside a building. I wanted to be able to say, well, that building's right there. Why can't I be inside that building? And so for me, it's really important to be able to just be able to go, hey, lift the roof straight off. Now I'm in there. And you know what? I'm going to go upstairs and through the little trapdoor that we've got, and I'm going to go, boom, I'm going to get up. And now I'm upstairs, and I'm going to open that window and I'm going to shoot that guy. Because look, I can see him. I can see my line of sight. I'm standing at that window and I can just shoot directly through and say, right, there you go. There's no ambiguity there as far as I'm concerned. It's like, here's my village or whatever. Here is my table. Where do you want to go? You can go anywhere you like.
Excellent. Yeah. I hadn't actually considered that, but I do remember that frustration back when I was playing like Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and then if I wanted to take the battles inside, it would have to switch to Mordheim or something. So yeah, having that crossover.
Yes, absolutely. And I had some of those Mordheim buildings many, many years ago, and I used them in, both, even in, Warhammer 40k at the time, creating my own little skirmish game, because they're just there's something really nice to be able to run around a building and sort of like, run across a plank into another ruin and shoot from a window. There's, everything is right in front of you. There's a battlefield there. And for me, it's very important that if I'm playing on that battlefield, that everything stays right there, because then that's immersion. There's nothing to take me away from the game and the feel of the game that I'm playing.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned there have been some upgrades since like the dungeons previous system. What are some of are there any changes or upgrades that you've brought to this new system? What were some of the challenges in designing it?
Okay, so basically, upgrade-wise, the dungeons 4 years ago, probably 4 at least, maybe longer, I don't know.
I think 4, yeah.
Yeah, so since then we've really put a lot of work into all of our training. You'll see a lot of the upgrades in our Urban Apocalypse and all our sci-fi ranges and in Core Space. So, back then if we had a little crate or something like that, it would be a decoration crate. Well, now you can go inside the crates, you can open, we've got like a little chest and you'll be able to open. Let's see if I can grab one. Got like a little...
We've lost him. He's gone.
From across the room.
Oh, thank goodness he's back.
A giant hand reached inside the village and picked up a little... So you got like a little... try and get the light on this. You got like a little treasure chest here, and you can click that closed.
Be careful, Colin. It might be a mimic.
So you can, so it's that kind of detail. One thing I've been waiting to do as well is like having like doors and windows that open. I could do it on the sci-fi, but it's not really within the genre, because a sci-fi door tends not open like this. It tends to slide away. So all our doors up to this point, you sort of push it out and remove it, and then when the doors close, you put it back in play. Perfect for sci-fi, but not for fantasy, because doors didn't have like retracting doors and stuff. So we've got opening doors, opening windows, go inside the little bits and pieces, inside the rooms and things like that. So I guess it's fair to say over the last 4 years we've totally upgraded, the way that the scenery works, and we're pretty much well known now for pushing the technology of cardboard to the point where you just look at it and just like, it doesn't look like cardboard anymore. You said about the challenges with the fantasy terrain. Really, for me, the biggest challenge was getting back into the genre. I've spent like the last 3 or 4 years in, more modern, certainly in the sci-fi kind of mindset. So for me, it was a case of, changing my music playlist in the background straight away so that I had sort of like, Lord of the Rings music on instead of sort of Firefly or something like that. And generally looking at the just doing a lot of research and just looking into the fantasy buildings and trying to capture that kind of feel. So we've got the lovely curved roofs and the kind of the beam work and the getting that textures, getting that color palette down to that kind of real nice fantasy kind of almost kind of run down dirty kind of, and I've looked at, there's various inspirations there, everywhere from, the Tolkien kind of thing through to, almost Monty Python, So that, there's the biggest challenge really was getting my mindset back into that fantasy kind of theme. Well, now I'm right in the thick of it. I'm just like, I can't see anything else.
Well, fantasy is my preferred genre. So as soon as I saw these houses and these towers and things, I was just, I want this table layer. I really wanted a table of this. Now, the Kickstarter itself, the plans are for a village and a battlefield terrain set. Do you have any plans beyond that?
Well, right now, So we've got the village, and you can, like I say, you can set the village up as a skirmish, or you can set it out into sort of a more war game, and you can do the same with the battlefield as well. So you can push it to skirmish, and you can separate it up. We've definitely got plans for some other stuff as well, we've got. I mean, this is a battle system, so. What tends to happen is, whilst the Kickstarter is running, we'll be watching the comments and people are making suggestions and stuff like that. It's a crazy way to do it. And then we kind of like, I'll have some stuff prepared, but generally someone, people will be saying certain things and I'll be working on it. And then, a bit like in Core Space, everyone was like, we want a shuttle. And I was like, how can I make a shuttle? How's it going to work? But we did it. And I did it while the Kickstarter was running. So we've got some ideas, that we want to push forward, and you might even see an entirely new pledge level at some point through the campaign as well. Trying not to give away any secrets here.
Oh, please spill a few secrets.
Sip of my tea quickly to shut me up.
That is a suitably epic mug you've got there. I approve. Now, before I let you go here, of course, with the battle system sci-fi terrain that came first, and then we had Core Space. Are we going to see something similar happen with fantasy?
Oh God, I've got to. I mean, I've got so many cool ideas. Can I just say yes and deny it later on if I can't do it? But absolutely, we've got to. Core Space has been such a success that, and I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy it to the point where at the moment, because I'm working so hard on the Kickstarter, I haven't played a game of Core Space for nearly 3 weeks, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. I'm halfway through a campaign, and my game guy that comes over and does it with me is going sort of cold turkey as well. So now, for the fantasy game, yes, without a doubt, I've got designs backstory. We've already kind of decided what and where and how that universe looks like, and yeah. I just want to say yes. We got to do it. We've absolutely got to do it.
Yeah.
Because I've just really want to do it.
Definitely, I want in on that one. That sounds fun. To explore a fantasy world like that sounds a lot of fun.
Well, it will be. I mean, the mechanic's already there for core space, and the mechanic is absolutely solid, and it can be adapted but twisted to that fantasy genre really, really easily. We've sort of already done it, so yeah, very exciting.
That actually answers my next question, which was going to be: is it going to build upon the core space mechanic, or
totally? Yeah, that mechanic originally core space was a mechanic that I've played over the many years for various different games. So if I'm into Batman at the time, I can adapt the mechanic to use as a Batman game. If I'm into whatever I'm into at the time, I can move it towards Star Wars. Great, I'll do the thing. Skill points become force points, and all that kind of stuff. So the mechanic is really versatile. The trick is to port the basic mechanic, but at the same time then bringing in making the changes that are really, really important for fantasy. And how you Core Space works really, really well because it's a really kind of narrative, immersive game, but plays really quick. So what we've got to be able to do is to bring that fantasy immersion into the fantasy version of the game. And oh yeah, I got some cracking ideas. Just so busy with everything else that I just can't get to it.
Yeah, as long as I can play a halfling rogue, I'm sold. That's all I need in life.
Let me just make a little note.
You got one sale right there for a halfling rogue being in the game.
There you go, sorted.
Excellent.
No promises.
No, we've got you on camera now. That counts. That's how that works.
I've actually written it down as well.
Brilliant. I've contributed. Okay. I said that word weird. Colin, thank you so much for coming aboard and letting us know everything that's happening with Battle Systems Fantasy Terrain.
You are more than welcome. Thanks for having me.
If you want to find out more about the Battle Systems Fantasy Terrain, I cannot say words today. The Battle Systems Fantasy Terrain, please head over to the Kickstarter and check it out, and make sure to leave a comment below letting us know what buildings from a fantasy world you'd like to go explore.
Battle Systems Fantasy Terrain Kickstarter gives you a complete gaming table straight out of the box. There's no painting required, simply clip it together and you're ready for battle. Skirmish games, war games, RPGs, whatever your preference, this is the solution. When you're done, you can flat pack it back down, perfect for storage and transport. All of our modular buildings are fully accessible, with removable roofs and detailed interiors to maximize your gaming experience. We use special high-density materials to ensure our terrain is tough and durable. Whether at home, down the club, or in store, it's ready to take the rigors of gaming life. Back this Kickstarter now for all the terrain you'll ever need.
Over the last 7 years, our terrain has been used all over the world. Right from the beginning, we've had these fantasy building designs in our heads and have been dying to get them to the table. We've really focused in on the genre here. Fantasy needs a more natural look, with curved roofs, hinged doors and windows, and a certain tone for the textures, leading to much more immersive games. All the buildings are self-contained, and it's Battle Systems, so Each building retains an ability to be modular. Add an extension to a house, make it taller, combine multiple houses for unique builds. We've made sure that no matter which option you choose, you can use the buildings for skirmish games, war games and RPGs. You can mix and match the pledges too, and of course we've got all the classic starting pieces: townhouse, stores, tavern, watchtower, ruins. But with your support there's still much more to come. We can't wait. I can't wait to finally get these designs out of our heads and onto the table. Pledge to support us on Kickstarter. Thank you.
Okay, I saw this stuff when we were at Expo and it just blew me away, the table that Colin and the guys had actually set up. It's just so nice, and they've actually managed to get it that there's a lot of strange little twists and turns into it. You know the way whenever you have fantasy buildings you don't like them to be too clean? You like them to look a little bit rickety? You know, they've really came across well with that. Jerry, you have the link for the Kickstarter, yeah?
I do. This is Proto Kickstarter.
Proto Kickstarter. So at time of filming this is not live, but if you scroll down to this first image here, you'll see what I mean. You see the way there's not really a ton of straight lines all through it. There's always either a little cut in or a little bit of a curve built into it. And I really like that. What do you think, Ben?
I love these. They go down that kind of route that I like with fantasy buildings, where, as you say, there's no sort of like clean lines to it. It feels very much like the kind of buildings you would have seen in, you know, the worlds of Fable, for example. It's kind of think what we saw with like the Fabled Realms stuff that Foreground have been doing as well. And it kind of also pulls you into that kind of old worldy feel too. So if you like Warhammer Fantasy role play and that kind of thing, these would be pretty good for setting up some really interesting scenarios and stuff on the tabletop. I'm going to use these for Burrows and Badgers. I'm definitely going to pick these up and use these. They look absolutely fantastic. Who would have thought that? I would use them for Burrows
Caught us off guard there.
See, honestly, I would be using these for something like Conquest whenever I get
you could use
them
it
in.
for that as well, yeah.
Because you know you get enough in here that you can set it up, lay it out whatever way you want, but it's not a huge amount that you need. That, and they're doing single core pledge, isn't it, Ben, or a retailer pledge?
I think it's one big sort of like core pledge that you can get, and then there's also like a retailer one as well. There's some really good options for not just like the fantasy town, but there's also ruins at the same time, and like a battlefield set they've done as well.
I
so
see,
it's really cool.
options of two. Honestly, I would grab that village one just because I like the look of it.
Yeah, they've also done roads and that kind of thing as well. So if you don't want to try and make your own roads, you've got some really good options there. They've got accessories, so they've got fences, carts, signposts, and that kind of thing as well. So you've got lots of stuff that adds that sort of narrative edge to the gaming table, which I thought was really good. I love the idea of combining this with their dungeon set that they've already done and doing it like a role play setting. So you could almost play through the bit at the above ground where maybe you're going into the tavern to go and kill some rats and kind of thing, because that's a fantasy staple of everything you do, and then you delve down into the dungeon below and you sort of move away the board that you set up with the top, and then you bring in the one underneath. Maybe you could even combine it all together into some kind of like 3D board. That'd be pretty awesome. But yeah, very cool.
Sweet. That would look good with Vanguard all over it.
Yeah.
Looking at the battlefield here is very cool. I love the ruins that they've designed.
Yeah.
They go together really nicely.
Yeah. They're also doing mats and stuff as add-ons. So if you want to put together a big sort of tablescape, effectively just from the one Kickstarter, you've got some good options there too. It's not too bad for what you're paying. Effectively, you're getting yourself a big puzzle, to play around with, which is really good. So.
Well, you're getting essentially a full gaming table's worth of terrain for one shot, and I mean, like the guys have ran multiple Kickstarters now, delivered multiple Kickstarters, so I would trust them with my life. Yeah,
they've delivered on pretty much everything they've done so far. I think Core Space is now going into retail and doing all that kind of thing now, which is really good. So if you're interested in battle systems, make sure you give them a look.
Yeah, although I was talking to Colin at the UK Games Expo about when are they going to do Core Adventure for the fantasy version of Core Space.
Yeah.
I would want it. I would play it.
I would do it too. They've got some amazing sculptures for Core Space, so I'd love to see what they did in the fantasy realm. That'd be really cool. Yeah.
Like your villains could be very simply just evil necromancer, summoning his skeleton hordes, and as you continue to press your way through the game and play the game, it just ramps up.
Yeah.
And I mean, like having two opposing groups of adventurers with maybe their cart and wagon at the outside of the map instead could be very cool.
Then butcher each other. Butcher each other as quickly as humanly possible.
Well, that's something with core space, because you would think, okay, we're opposing each other.
Yep.
Let's fight. But the more noise you make, the more fighting you do, the worse the game pushes back against you.
Yeah, you know.
And there is that.
You can be
tipping
quiet
point.
after everybody's dead.
See, I now kind of want to play against Jerry to see how he would play it, because
I would just go hell for leather until you're dead.
Well, whenever I've played against Colin, it has been quite okay. I'm just looting for stuff. You're just looting for stuff. Oh, you got the shiny gun. I kind of want that, and it kind of hits that tipping point for then you start fighting each other.
The tipping point for me would be once his miniatures go on the table. Going, oh, you think?
This I have to see. This
Yeah.
I have to see. Just
very
see
simple.
that different play style for the game.
Just kill everyone. Kill everyone, and you can loot at your own whim later on.
All right.
Once everybody's dead. And if anything, if I've learned one thing from Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls, you had a weight limit to how much you could carry.
Yeah.
But I discovered very early on that if you got a corpse and put all the stuff on the corpse, you could drag the corpse back to the door.
Yeah.
Yes, you can,
And you didn't get the encumbered bonus. You didn't suddenly stop moving because you had too much weight on you. So
Yeah.
I would just be piling
Yeah. I used to
everything
do that
and just
in Skyrim.
dragging you by the heels back to the entrance of the dungeon. Now you just hand it out. Just put it onto a cart afterwards. Or maybe just, staple a couple of wheels to your lugs.
Looting 101
It's
by
fine. It's all
Jerry.
fine. We're all fine here. Just,
You just walking back into town, 2 legs,
Yeah,
under the arms. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Because if I put your hands over the stuff on your chest, and then I could just hammer a dagger through your hands to stop it moving, it would be very secure as well. I'd hardly lose anything on the way.
So basically, now all you need is to have like a group of huskies at the front and just ride me like a sled.
Oh, that'd be fine. Yeah.
God damn it!
Seems totally legit.
I see no flaws in that. There are no flaws in that. 100% foolproof.
All right, well, that interview nicely brings us on to the Kickstarters we're looking at for this week. So that's one of them. It is currently running. Definitely want to check out, because Colin and the guys at Battle Systems do great stuff. Moving on to the first one. What have we got, Ben?
So the first one we're looking at, it goes from combative to cooperative in a sense, but cooperative chaos, which is always good. This is a dexterity game from Queen Games, and this is their Kickstarter for their big box of Escape Curse of the Temple. Now, Curse of the Temple is a game that I've played before, and it's sort of like core form, where the whole idea is that you're playing as a bunch of Indiana Jones-style adventurers who have found your way into a temple, and you're trying to get as much treasure as you can, but also escape before the time runs out and the temple closes its doors behind you, and you're locked in forever. Right? So you run into the game, and this is all played in real. You run into the temple. Sorry, this is all played in real time, and you're going to be rolling dice to try and uncover tiles, solve puzzles, collect idols, to then open more doors to try and make your way back to the entrance and escape from here. And the whole thing is played like a Donkey Kong-esque soundtrack that is going on in the background. And every time the CD booms out with escape, things go really badly and you have to stop and you have to try and worry about things. You can also get cursed by the dice, so as you're rolling them frantically, you might see curse symbols popping up, which mean that you're then stuck and someone has to come over and try and free you and all kinds of things like that. And so it's all about trying to get out as fast as you can with all the treasure that you can without leaving anybody behind. So there's a lot of intense action going on in this game. And this Kickstarter now adds even more chaos into the mix with the big box that adds a whole bunch of expansion tiles into it, a whole bunch more puzzles and that kind of thing, whole bunch more dice and all that stuff as well. So yeah, go and check this one out. Very, very, very good indeed. If you like dexterity games, if you like chaos, this one's really good. So if you play something like Captain Sonar, for example, which is a really cool cooperative sort of like chaos real-time game, this one is at another level. So yeah, very good.
So if you've always wanted to play the Crystal Maze Aztec Zone,
yes,
as a board game, this is that.
So the presenter said, "Come along, my darlings, come along."
That's Richard Iowati these days.
I was going to say, as you can see on the board, if you sort of see a little bit closer on this, you'll see a lot of the rooms have got lots of gems in them. The idea is that you're trying to get as many of these gems and picking them up and escaping with them as quickly as possible, while also dealing with all the treasures and traps at the same time. It's really good fun, and the amount of times when you're not concentrating on one player who's gone off by themselves on some random adventure somewhere, and then you're really close to the exit, and then they go, "Oh, guys, I'm cursed," and you're like, "How far away are you?" You're on the other side of the temple, so everyone has to run back through the temple to try and get them, free them, and then bring them back through as well at the same time. It's really good.
Just leave a crystal in the cage when you open the door, and then come right back for the crystal to go to the end.
Yeah, that's the way you solve it.
That's how I would do it.
See, I like games like this that are cooperative, but they're also a bit frantic while you're playing them. I mean, like, I think one of the best pressure cooker ones I ever saw was XCOM, which ran with an app.
Yeah,
so you got random amount of time every run
Right.
you were playing through for your different sections. So you would have each person taking a role within the command center trying to stop the alien invasion, and it was just a constant pressure of time's running down, go, 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 and then people just frantically stabbing at their iPads.
Weird.
Yeah, I like this one, Ben. The art style's nice, and it sounds like it's got a nice theme to it. What's our next one?
So the next one is, no surprise, we've been excited by this game all week.
Yes.
It is Super Fantasy Brawl from Mythic Games. Their Kickstarter is now live. There are, at this time now, 4 days left on the campaign because it was a very, very short one.
Yes.
It's a game for either one versus one, or you can do 2 versus 2 in a team game, which is pretty cool. You're going to be playing as wizards who have summoned heroes from the ages to fight in the Super Fantasy Brawl to see who is the best of the best of the best. You will pick a team of 3 heroes, you'll mash them together with their cards, you'll make your deck, and you will fight for victory in the arena, trying to get to 5 victory points by either killing your opponents or completing a whole bunch of objectives. We've got a whole bunch of videos on this over on OnTableTop.com, so go and check those out. Justin's been playing a lot of it as well.
Yep.
But I wanted to just bring our attention to the thing that is new from the Kickstarter right now, which is the expansion, which is the Forces of Nature one, which adds 3 new heroes into the mix, which sound very, very cool indeed. But yeah, Justin, I will let you talk about this one because you played a lot of this game. So yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those games that scratches my tactical itch. There are 0 dice in this game. So if you're good with your tactics, every round you get a hand of 5 cards. And if you can figure out the most efficient way to use those cards, you're going to be basically just having fun, doing what you want, and just giving your opponent a super bad day. The sculpts are absolutely gorgeous for this. So we're seeing the 3 new ones here, Ben, for the Forces of Nature. So we've got L'Oreal, maybe she's born with it, Tease, and Nevermore. What? That's L'Oreal?
That's Lorelei.
Oh, Lorelei. The done me. Sorry. Artwork's gorgeous in the game as well, and like I said, mechanic. I love the drafting mechanic at the start of it, where you're picking your teams back and forth because you're sort of counter playing each other even before you get down onto the tabletop. The new design they've done for the board there, they've actually incorporated the challenge board into the side of it there. Just cleans everything up a little bit and just makes it a little easier to store everything. I like the fact that they're going for the exclusive game trays. So it's a nicer game tray for you to actually just store all your stuff in, and you're getting this at a super, super good price. I know we don't mention it all that often on the show, but just look at that screen there. You are saving so much on this. One of our guys here at the club has actually went for the all-in on this. He's talking about becoming an ambassador. So yeah, definitely worth going for.
The interesting thing that was cool about this, when I was looking at that Force of Nature expansion and sort of the heroes within it, is that during one of the videos, I think it was the video between Az and Leo, which is very, very good. Definitely go and watch that game. Very, very tense. But there was a talk about heroes with less health and more armor, for example, or just characters that are very, very different. And so the Forces of Nature one sort of throws a few more into the mix because you've got Taze there who's got 9 health but no armor, and then you've got Lorelei there who has 4 health but 2 as well. So there's some really interesting things going on because a lot of the game is about fighting, but it's also about positioning on the tabletop and sort of working out how you're going to score those objectives in further turns as well, and sort of keeping your heroes alive, because while they do sort of respawn every turn, you want to try and use them to the best of your advantage on the tabletop, which is really cool. But yeah, absolutely amazing sculpts. Make sure to go and check out the painted versions of them by Seb Levine, because he is an insane painter and he's done some amazing jobs on this. So, yeah.
And Mythic are doing their usual as well, where they're constantly interacting with the community as the campaign runs. Earlier this week, I actually saw they've been putting up basically challenges for people on their Facebook page, where they'll show you a board layout. 3 teams are on the board, and they give you your hand of cards for the turn, and they'll give you the challenge like, okay, score 1 VP this round. And so I actually sat for maybe a good 20 minutes trying to figure out what would be the optimal play to score this. And I mean, like, I did it. It was there to be read, but it's a really great way to teach people early how to play the tactics of the game and actually engage with everybody.
I would also point out that the rules are available on the Kickstarter, which I think is a very, very important thing for any campaign at the moment. So if you want to go and check out the rules in written form, as well as watch some of the videos and see how the game plays, make sure to do that before you pledge for anything, just so you've got a handle on the rules and see whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah,
so.
There also is talk of them doing a print and play version and a Tabletopia version at some point, which I think could be very cool for people just to sit down and get to grips with it early. Now, Tabletopia, it's kind of like Tabletop Simulator, but it's a web browser-based version. So I actually had a look at it whenever the launch party was on, and I jumped into like a solo thing for Subterra, and it taught you how to play, told you all the rules, but you do have to actually make all the moves yourself manually. So it's a little bit slower, but you can actually do it, which is cool.
Good, yeah.
And then, of course, we have all of the videos that were done for this as well. So we did a ton, and a ton of other YouTubers have been doing it as well. So you've got Man vs. Meeple, you've myself, Blackjack Legacy, Battlecaster in there as well. And then if you're one of the French speakers, because Mythic always seem to do the games initially in both English and French because they're a French company, there's that for you. And they were also talking about whenever it hits retail, doing other language translations to actually make sure that no matter who you are, where you are in this world, you can play the game.
That's a key actual thing to mention, is that they're not just focused on this being a Kickstarter game. There is going to be support for this in the future, in the idea of it being a organised play sort of kind of game. So the whole idea is that you're going to be going along to play, and there's a draft mechanic in there, as Justin was mentioning, where you'll take a team of 5 heroes and maybe you use 3 of them. So it's like a pick and ban thing going on, which is pretty cool. And there's going to be a whole bunch of other ways for you to play the game as well. The Kickstarter's also got some cool add-ons. So we talked a little bit about the game organizer, but there's also neoprene mats. So if you like neoprene, I love my neoprene. I'm a card gamer, love it. And there's also some card sleeves as well. So if you want to keep all your cards pristine, because you're going to be flicking through them all the time as you worry about the kind of moves you're going to be making. So it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, you see, the options you have for the Kickstarter is you either go for the base pledge and pick out which add-ons you want, or you just go all in and get all the add-ons in one shot. One thing I do notice is I'm not seeing any stretch goals on this Kickstarter, and that actually makes me happy, because it's showing me that Mythic, they're wanting people to be able to adopt the game early, but they're not wanting to take the knees out of the retailer later on, because they are planning to fully support this and do full retail releases in 2020, hopefully.
There were teasing that they might do something, because the Kickstarter do say, and any unlocked rewards. So there may be something that's done through either the community or some comments or something like that. But as you say, it's all very much sort of like pledge for that base thing and see where you go from there.
Yeah, that, and people have just been going nuts for it. I think currently they're having to make, 2,500 copies or so?
Something like that.
So that's just great. What do you think of this one, Jerry?
It looks interesting. The sort of arena combat games seem to be cropping up here and there. It's not one I would normally jump in on because I'm not a huge Brawl fan, because they come from the whatever the MOBA thing.
MOBA?
Yeah.
Dota and things like that.
Yeah. The sculpts look great. They've got a very unique style to them. It's very sort of cartoon style.
Yeah. You see, the game actually plays as a brawler and not as a MOBA, to be honest with you, because the MOBA, it's
What's the
3
difference?
lanes. Well, for MOBA, it's 3 lanes trying to push towards someone else's base. With this one, it's very much about the tactical positioning and actually trying to set yourself up so that your opponent can't block you from scoring some of the objectives. So there is a big difference there.
They don't sound very different to me.
If you wanted like an equivalent, think of like Shadespire and Warhammer Underworld and that kind of like heroes versus heroes kind of thing. So it's more of like a team deathmatch-y style thing rather than it being like an objective. Kind of like a MOBA, but
yeah. Well, I mean, like the objectives are key to winning, but you can also score from taking out your opponent, and it is directly towards your victory. But there is no base that you're trying to take out, and there's no random mobs that you're trying to run as well.
I have no idea. I don't play them. That's how much I don't like them. I don't play them.
Fair enough.
You know.
All right, well, I think that's us for the day. Honestly, for me, the Kickstarter you should be checking out this week has to be Super Fantasy Brawl. It's only up for a short time, and it's just such a gorgeous game, and the mechanics are so tight. What about yourself, Ben?
I'm very, very taken by Super Fantasy Brawl. As I say, I've been watching all the videos and following along with it. Sounds very, very exciting. For me, as someone who plays a lot of Keyforge and likes very quick, easy to pick up play games that don't have a lot of like building associated with it at the same time. In this, obviously, this kind of gives you that in a miniature brawler form, which is pretty cool. I do also like Escape, but I already own it, so
Probably no need for two versions of that then, Ben, is there?
Although I did think about that for Suburbia. I did think about buying the new version of it when I had the old one, but anyway.
Well, the other balancing point is there's also that battle systems terrain set up for grabs. So if you're more wargamer than board gamer, you've definitely got that as an option this week. All right, I tell you what, everybody, I think we will close out for the day. So just to remind you, we do have a competition in this week's show, which is a 2-player Conquest starter set. We have also added pre-orders for this game to our web store. So if you like the game, if you want to jump in and actually start having a play, you can jump in and start putting your pre-orders in now, or you can drop a comment and do the rest on this video. Make sure and come across and join us over on OnTabletop.com tomorrow morning, because we are doing the XLBS special, which is the Eating Challenge. It's going to be hilarious.
Nom, nom, nom.
It's not going to be nom nom nom. It's going to be Anyway, for Conquest, I actually have some miniatures that I can quickly show you. So, if you're curious as to what the details are like, these are some of Warren's favourites that he has been absolutely gushing over. So I believe this is your HQ for the human faction, and they've also got some really nice cavalry and infantry guys in there as well. And they're actually pretty big minis as well. Okay, that'll do us, everybody. We'll move on. Hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Ben, be thankful that you are in England right now. Bye, guys.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.